Hi everyone, I'm back from the dead, I guess, with a quick impromptu video. There's no script at all. I'm just going to, I just felt like making a quick tutorial on implementing a web service in WCF and also using the entity framework core. I have a basic idea on what I want to do, what I want to show you. I'm not going to go into technical detail too much. This is just going to be a very quick video, like let's create a web service that does something. So what we're going to work with is, as I said, the WCF framework for creating a web service. Specifically, it's going to be a SOAP web service as opposed to a RESTful web service. That's no particular reason. It's just I think it's easier to understand and maybe quicker to implement. And we're going to use an MS SQL database. I got Microsoft SQL Server Management Studio running here, and I set up a MS SQL server. I'm using MS SQL Server Express. For that, you can download that for free if you want. Just Google MS SQL Server Express, or I'm going to put a link in the description or something. It's easy to find. Of course we're going to use Visual Studio as our IDE, and my basic idea on what I want to do is we want to create a web service that retrieves speedrun data, like for a game that you can like request, send a request to the service, and the service like gives you the best speedrun stats of all players for a particular game or for like multiple games. But we're going to keep it really, really simple, and we're going to use Entity Framework Core for our infrastructure layer for persisting the data and pulling it from the database. And it's going to be a quick, simple design. I don't want to over-design it or do anything too complicated. So let's just get started. Like I said, there's no script or anything, so there's probably going to be a few bloopers. Maybe I have to cut them out. I don't know. Like maybe I have to do a lot of editing. Maybe I'll just keep it as it is. I have no idea. There's basically nothing, no script, not too much preparation. So first what I would like to do is model our database. Yes, in Entity Framework, of course, you can do the code first approach, which basically means that you just normally model out your data model in C# or in .NET in general, and then migrate that code to a database, basically, so that it automatically creates the tables for you to map your models to that database. But we're not going to do that. I don't want to show you how to do that, how to migrate and automatically create databases. I just want to keep it really simple. So we're going to create the database tables ourselves. So let's just go ahead. So I got MS SQL Server Management Studio running here, and I'm going to use the local DB, which is basically like a lightweight version. I do have a regular server running, but there's a couple of databases on there that I use personally, and to keep it clean, have like a clean setup here, I just use the local DB. Let's go ahead and create a new database. And we're just going to call it like speedrun database. I don't know. I hope the goal is clear here, what we're trying to achieve. Okay, that's it. So we have a new database now, and we're going to need some tables to actually store the data. And basically, we have to think about the design. Like I said, there's no preparation at all. I'm just doing an impromptu. I haven't planned anything. What I think we're going to need, of course, is a table that stores like a couple of known games that our database knows. Like, I don't know, typical speedrun games. I don't know, Super Metroid, Super Mario World. I don't know, any games. We're going to predefine, I don't know, like 2 or 3 games, and that's going to be it. And what I have here is a free UML tool called UMLet. It's a Java-based open source tool that you can, well, get if you know how to Google stuff. So we're going to use this tool to quickly create an entity relationship model or entity relationship diagram to show what kind of tables we need, quickly create a draft, what data we need to store, stuff like that. Actually, technically, an ERD or an ERM is not UML, but this tool is still perfectly suitable for that. Yeah, so I'm going to create a new table element here. Actually, what I really like about this tool is that you can create plugins for it in Java. So I created a quick plugin for creating these database table looking elements. They're actually not included out of the box, but if you want to use this tool to create entity relationship diagrams, you can still use it perfectly fine without a custom plugin. You can easily recreate this design with just the out-of-the-box elements. So yeah, but I really like that you can create like your own elements. So yeah, let's clear this and think about what kind of tables we need and what data they need to store. Okay, so first of all, of course, we need to have a table that stores all of the known games. And like I said, we will have like a set of 2 or 3 games. It's not about complexity, it's about quickly demonstrating, quickly implementing a web service using WCF. So we're going to create a table called game, and it's going to have a primary key which is called ID typically, and it's going to be of type integer, and of course it cannot be null because every game needs to have an identifier to, well, identify it by, and of course a game needs to have a name, which is of type nvarchar in MS SQL, which is, if you're not too familiar with databases, it's basically a string. So yeah, it's, of course, this also has a not null constraint on it because a game without a name is not a thing. And let's see, what else? What kind of data can we store? Maybe we can store the release date. And it's going to be of type datetime. And actually this can be null because sometimes we don't know the release date for a game. Okay, I think that's it. I don't think we need to store that much data. Maybe a publisher name or something. Yeah, let's go ahead and include the publisher name. We'll just say publisher. I mean, we could store the publisher in a different table and then be like, because then the publisher would be its own entity, and we can like query for it. I mean, we can always query for it, but no, let's just put the publisher in a table attribute of type nvarchar, and that's it. Just keep it really, really simple and lightweight. And then we're going to need a table that represents, let's just copy this one. Then we're going to need a table that represents a player, so that we can associate a player with speedrun statistics. And later on, we might even have like a login system or a web service where you can post your own speedrun stats, so that they're stored and can be retrieved by anyone. I don't know. It's just going to be, like I said, it's completely impromptu. Let's just say player, and of course the player also has an ID and a name. A player does not have a release date unless you want to refer to the birth date as the release date. Well, we're not going to do that. Yeah, store the ID and the name, and or maybe let's just I think we don't need that much information. I mean, we could be like username, or I don't know, gamer tag. Actually, gamer tag, that's not a bad idea, right? Just call it the gamer tag instead of name. And yeah, I think for now that should be it. Maybe we're going to add some more attributes to that later on, but for now, that's just fine. But actually, the gamer tag needs to be unique. Because otherwise, you wouldn't be able to, like, I mean, there's multiple people can have the same gamer tag, of course, but in our context, we need to distinguish between them. I mean, we can do that using the ID, of course, but we want to make sure that every player has his own or her own unique gamer tag. Okay, so that would be it for the player for now, and now we need the speedrun data. I don't know what we're going to call it. Let's just call it a speedrun. Oh no, it's just ID. That's it. And it's going to have a reference to the player who, well, did that speedrun. It's speedrun, not speedrun. Eminem does a lot of speedruns. No, it's going to have a foreign key to the player. So let's say player ID, and it's going to be an integer, and it can't be null because every speedrun needs to be associated with a player. And of course, we need to store well, the actual time value, and now we have to think about how we want to store that. My first thought would be to store it as a long int, a big int. So basically just a very large integer, so we can store the ticks and represent the same value in C# using the time span type. But I'm not sure if that's the best approach. Maybe we can just say, I mean, to keep it really simple, we could also be like, let's say hours. minutes and seconds. I mean, this would be another approach. I don't know. I think that's fine. Yeah, I don't know. Or actually, no, let's actually do what I suggested first and say, I don't know, time. Just call it time. Yeah, I don't know, time is fine. And it's going to be of type a big int, which is, well, as the name suggests, just a very large integer. I think that's fine. Also, let's see. Oh, of course. We also need to have a reference to the game that was played. It's also going to be an integer. So now we can define the relationships between those entities. We're going to use this element to draw them here into our model. Like this, right? So if we want to further define the relationship, let's see. One player can do multiple speed runs, and a speed run is always assigned to a single player. So basically, it is a one-to-many relationship. Let's see if I can remember how to annotate that here. I think it's something like I think it's something like M1. Yeah, and M stands for multiplicity. So one speed run, whoops, and n players. So n players are assigned to, no, this is the other way around. Sorry, like I said, completely off the cuff, no script, nothing. So n speed runs are assigned to a single player, right? Yeah, because player X can do speed runs, multiple speed runs. Yeah, that's fine. And also, we need to further define the multiplicities here, and we're going to say that. Why am I typing 2? N speed runs can be for one game, and one game can be associated with multiple speed runs, so that's fine. Yep. Whoops. Okay. Let's see. What else do we need? I think for now this should be, I don't know. Oh yeah, maybe a date when the speed run was posted, or when the speed one was recorded. Let's say record date, and it's going to be of type datetime, and it can't be null. Oh, also the time can't be null, because there would be no point in storing the speed run without storing the time value. So yeah. All right.